Hello and welcome to another episode of Blood, Guts, and Social Commentary, as well as another installment of Why Is This a Thing? Today we will talk about the very often used horror icons of Frankenstein and the Mummy, and look at why we keep using them and why people keep finding them scary. At their core, Frankenstein and the Mummy essentially play on all of our fear of death. Most people try not to die. When you go out and you do something in the morning, when you go get in your car to go to work or school or whatever, you go, hey, I'm gonna stay on the road, not ram into other cars, and not hit trees, guardrails, things like that. Why? Because you want to live. While accidents do happen and are unpreventable, most people attempt to prevent them. Because while the Mummy and Frankenstein are reanimated, they essentially had to die first. Frankenstein's monster was created out of the limbs and body parts of dead people that he grave robbed. The Mummy is always a person wrapped up after death that reanimates. By Dr. Frankenstein playing with this, he uses science to play God. He does this to prevent death. In the case of the Mummy, it's normally some kind of curse that causes the mummy to come back to life and wreak havoc on whoever was in their tomb. While most people with a religious background or not, probably don't think it's a great idea to play God, because if you were to stave off death, especially if you could apply this widespread for everybody, it's not normally the case with the Mummy, but it's normally the case very much with Dr. Frankenstein, who wants to reanimate and have people avoid death. As a species, we can't do that. We need people to die, we need people to be born. There's a checks and balance with that. While immortality, it may sound badass, especially if everybody's immortal, because then you don't have to go through the normal immortal trope of, oh my god, everybody around me keeps dying, I don't know how to deal with this. Well, if they're immortal too, cool, everybody's immortal. We would become overpopulated very, very quickly. And once again, that's dealing with our hindbrain self-preservation, let's keep the species going. While you don't want to die, you accept that death is inevitable, and you have to just go through that process for the betterment of the species. That's why we procreate, keep things going. Your hindbrain understands that and understands there is some element of population control. Also, when people die, religious background or not, like atheists believe when you die there's nothing, you're just a body, you're in the ground, you're doing whatever. People in most religions believe, well, yes, the body dies, but the soul continues on. Either way, that body became a lump of flesh with nothing really to offer unless you're an organ donor or unless you've donated your body to science. Even life pods is kind of doing something, but for the most part, you become, as insensitive as it sounds, an inanimate object. And we don't like the idea of life coming into inanimate objects because that's not right, that's creepy, and it shouldn't happen. While you can argue like Beauty and the Beast, well, all of these things came to life and it wasn't creepy because it was a children's movie. Yeah, normally things coming to life that shouldn't come to life are a bad thing. Like, there's about 1 million horror examples of this. Poltergeist, or every single paranormal found footage movie that has stuff flying around the room to prove something's possessed. Normally, we are aware of these objects and know they shouldn't move, so when they do, there's something unnerving about it. We might get over that if they're cute and cuddly and awesome, but for the most part, we know that shouldn't happen and we should prevent that from happening. Even in most horror films like Pet Sematary, we warn about reanimation changing people. When Church was buried in the pet cemetery, when anything that went into that pet cemetery that came back was inherently evil. So once again, this can be seen as a penance for playing God, or it can be seen as there is some magical deity that gives people life and then takes it away. If life is breathed back into that thing, wouldn't the thing possibly be evil because the good, quote-unquote, life force took it away? So wouldn't evil have to kind of come in there and give it life again? Who knows? I'm not looking to get into a theological debate here. I'm just giving what most backgrounds seem to be. And an idea like this is obviously less scary in a culture that believes heavily in reincarnation. While that isn't a reanimated body, it's a different body, that still leads to the creep factor of something that shouldn't be moving. And at their core, Dr. Frankenstein and the Mummy both have something in common. They both have obsession. Victor Frankenstein was obsessed with creating life, bringing it back, and trying to prevent death. The mummy, in most cases, there's some kind of curse, normally around the objects that they are surrounded by, and there's an obsession there with materialism. Even though those objects are supposed to come with the mummy to the afterlife, barring most Egyptian mythology, which is where we get most mummies, the curse seems to rest upon those objects being removed or the tomb being opened, which it wasn't supposed to be because that is the eternal resting place. So you can argue there's an obsession there with keeping the items and keeping everything closed up, locked up, to allow them a peaceful rest of their existence. In the case of Victor Frankenstein, his obsession with creating life caused the death and loss of his creation, not to mention being ostracized out of polite society. So there you have it. Frankenstein and the Mummy play on our fears of death. They play on our fears of life in the inanimate, or somebody coming back when they shouldn't come back, and us realizing obsession's a bad thing and can lead to some really bad results. Thank you for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much.